welcome to another episode of Diary of a Wannabe Comedian with me, Belle, a wannabe comedian. I tried to get a GP appointment today and I was somewhat surprised. It's not major, by the way, it's just routine. I have to have this appointment though, but I was somewhat surprised to be told, and I quote, "There are no appointments." And that's it. That was the end of that. Apparently you're supposed to ring up every week now, and it's a first come first served basis. And if there's too many, there are no appointments. I'm not sure how long the Tories have been in, but I think it's probably, I'm not political, I don't want to be political, but I'm kind of thinking it's time for a change. Not convinced there's any other party out there that's going to do any better, but I do know that the NHS used to function and now it no longer does. Anyway, that's the politics section of this podcast over and done with. Let's move on to the creativity, which is the purpose of this. Creativity. Well, I've watched other people do a lot of creative things. That counts. That counts a lot, doesn't it? I went to see Glitter and Titter on Friday. That was as good as always. In fact, actually, it was better than, for some reason, it was just better. I don't know why. I've never understood what it is. But I think sometimes the mix of acts just makes it, just slightly elevates it. Or perhaps it's the order. Who knows? Maybe it's just my blood sugar level. I don't know. But it was good. On Saturday, I had an unexpected visit to see Hamilton, which is a play that everybody's been musical that everybody's been raving about. And Matt, aka Larissa, got tickets unexpectedly and asked me if I would go. We both came out with a very similar view, actually, that not convinced it's really worth the hype, but we did really enjoy it. You know, it's one of those, it's good fun, but my goodness, it was... Actually, there's a rhyme there. I will say it in rhyme because it's has far more impact. It's good fun, but tough on the bum. Is that? No, it doesn't really rhyme, does it? Anyway, the seats were hard. And when you consider that the show was about 3 hours long, it was quite hardcore. But yeah, all in all, prepare yourself for a long one. Probably worth a visit. Really not as good as the hype. And it really has been hyped, this one. Then I watched at the cinema, of course I went to the cinema. Then I watched The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Well, that was a cheery little number. I know it's post-apocalyptic and all that, but there were 3 very minor amusing moments. Not even going to call them jokes. 3 very minor. Which I think is unusual for these kind of movies because they normally have a bit more than that, don't they? Anyway, it was pretty somber. At least there was no gratuitous sex. You know what I'm like with that. But then again, that could be the fact that none of them had any genitalia. But, you know, not that I was looking. Well, I was, but they didn't. I can confirm. That's about it. That's my weekend wrap up, I suppose. I am cognizant that I really haven't done much. I'm getting all shy and coy. I've not done much comedy. I recognise this, and this is why you come to this podcast, and I will rectify that. I am just sort of having a bit of a break. I don't know. I just need to do admin. I've got so many little jobs that piled up that I have not done, you know, I haven't got around to doing them, and I'm working my way through those. I'm obviously working on my final project for my animation course, so that's kind of ongoing. But I will, I promise, get back to the comedy. I have got 3 or 4 gigs, I think, in the diary, so they are forthcoming. They're just, in fact, that reminds me of a joke. I don't like telling other comedians jokes on my podcast. I don't think it's right, but I don't think they'd mind on this one because it's quite minor. So Matt Bragg, there's a point where he kind of looks at his watch. I guess he's checking how long he's been on and how long he's got left. But he always sort of makes a joke about, oh, you know, I've got another gig after this. And they said, it's September, but soon comes around. And that's the joke. And I'm sitting there thinking, yes, my next gig is September. And that's no joke. But there you are. I promise you faithfully, I will start booking some gigs. Much love and gratitude.